Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Here we go, day 4. I booked tonight's hotel on the toilet this morning. I know that's probably too much information. I tried booking it last night after dinner, but I was just too tired. I couldn't think. I'm kind of making this trip up as I go along. I left on a Thursday morning. I'm coming back on a Tuesday evening. I was trying to avoid the weather, and so far I've been very lucky. Last night we got close to that rain. So today, our first real stop is Alpe d'Huez, which is about 2 hours and 39 minutes away. It's another famous tour climb, and I've got a couple of other personal stories that I'll tell you about when I get there. I'm feeling remarkably good. I've taken some of the weight off my back, i.e. my laptop. It's the hardest thing with motorbike vlogging is the mic setup. I've got my little Zoom mic in here and it's hardwired into my helmet, but it's still not completely reliable. Hopefully you can hear me because I've got my visor open, as you can see, just because it's so much cooler and more refreshing like this than with the visor down. Well, that's been an enjoyable couple of hours to get me across here to the base of Alpe d'Huez. In fact, you can't see much of it. You can just, I think that's it in the distance. What we see in front of us is just the start. I can't remember how many hairpins, but it's something silly. Good Tour de France rider off memory does it in about 45 minutes. I came out here at the end of 2015, so almost 8 years ago, on my Brompton bicycle. For those of you that don't know, I used to race Brompton bikes. They had something called the World Championships. I raced around in Austria, various ones in the UK at Goodwood, and then in central London. And I came out here as part of my training, but also to clear my head, a bit like this trip, although that particular trip was just to get away from the life that I had in the UK at that particular time. 2015-16 weren't the best years for me. So I came out here on my Brompton and I set myself a challenge to climb Alpe d'Huez in an hour and a half. Exactly double of what the tour riders do. And I should have checked this morning, but I'm pretty sure I did it in exactly an hour and a half, which is impressive on a Brompton folding bike, albeit, you know, a fairly trick one. I recall weighing about 95 kilos back then. I've never been much lighter than that. I think 92, 93 was when I was really fit many years ago. I'm now 105, so 10 kilos of blubber. I remember starting that climb like it was yesterday. I remember turning into this left hand. It was quite cold because it was end of October, November time. And I just remember thinking, oh, here we go. Because the first bit is painful. That's my first story. And actually the link to that video, if you want to watch it, is up here somewhere. It's on my YouTube channel. So some of you might have even watched it. I think it's done over 40,000 views. Obviously the fun part of that was the descent coming down, and yeah, I was fast. I was overtaking cars and everything on my Brompton folding bike. That's one part of my more recent history with Alpe d'Huez. Something else is way before that. We have to go back to 2003, so 20 years ago. And I was racing mountain bikes downhill, and I was racing a World Cup round out here in Alpe d'Huez. I had a big accident, put me in hospital for some time. I had to get rushed at hospital in an ambulance, Grenoble Hospital. I don't even remember. I think they induced me as well, and it was not good. In practice, I had a big accident. I must have fractured the handlebars, because just as I was about to finish on my qualifying or seeding run, in the fastest part of the track, there was nothing to it, it was just fast. About 35 miles an hour off-road on gnarly rocks, so that feels pretty fast. My bars just decided to snap. So this right-hand side bar just snapped. Obviously throwing all my body weight over to the right, onto the floor, smashed my head so heavy and so hard. Completely knocked me out. Did some nerve damage, but I managed to get back on the bike. So obviously I'd gone into shock. I'd got back on the bike, managed to sort of push it across the line, because the finish line was only 100 meters away. And I just remember looking up, and I saw a rider called Steve Pete. Any of you guys that know mountain biking will know who Steve Pete is, and Chris Kavarik, and they both looked at me. Obviously they'd seen the crash, I think, on the big screen or something, and they both just looked at me like like how did that just happen, and how are you still conscious? And then not long after that I wasn't. It's a lot easier on this than it is on the Brompton. I remember this section on the Brompton because it flattens out a little bit here. It's just like, oh, get my legs back. It's just relentless. I mean, this probably looks flat on camera, but it's really not. I think that sign counts down the hairpins, so that's 13 to go. Yeah, I remember this bit as well, just thinking, oh man, savage, look at that map. I'm going to get myself a motorbike. Will it be a GS? I don't know, I need to try others, but if you're going to have one bike, I mean, it would be really hard to argue against this. Oh. Apart from my hands are a little bit slightly numb and a little bit sore, I'm thankfully okay today, which is amazing. And I think a lot of that is because I've got my big heavy laptop in my bag now, as in the bag on the bike, not on my back. So the rucksack on my back has a couple of litres of water in it, my underwear and a few other bits, but it's light as a feather, I don't even know it's on. So I think that's where I went wrong, carrying that big heavy laptop and a few other bits and pieces. Look at that drop. Oh, I can smell brakes, they're not mine. Now, it's telling me to turn right here, but I'm pretty sure I went this way. Yeah, I did, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Look at that! Look at that view! Ah! Oh, sorry about the noises. You think you're high, and then you look over there and there's mountains that are towering over you, and they've got snow on them. And in fact, I think that one straight ahead, that way, I think that's Les Deux Alpes. At the top of this climb, sorry, at the bottom of this climb, I filled up with fuel, got myself a baguette. I know there's lovely places just to sit up here and enjoy lunch, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Oh, now I really want to get back into mountain biking properly. I need about 4 lives. I need Joe in cars, Joe on mountain bikes, Joe on motorbikes, and Joe to be about 20 years younger and about 10 times fitter. I'm not sure I could make all of those things happen. Well, I think this would do. Just before we head back down the hill, this is actually the finish of the Alpe d'Huez Tour de France stage. So they come up here and under there. And up here is a board of all of the winners over the years. There's some absolutely legendary names on there like Marco Pantani, Jan Ullrich, Schleck, more recently Pinot, Geraint Thomas, and some English bloke called Tom Pidcock. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. Of course I know who Tom is. He's just won the Mountain Bike World Championships a few days ago. Hopefully get him on the podcast at some point. Well, that was a delightful lunch. I mean, it was just a normal baguette with chicken in it, but it was a delightful location. I just sat up there for 45 minutes probably, taking in the fresh air, drying out all my leathers, and also just enjoying the surroundings. The quickest I saw on my Brompton, I think it was 48 miles an hour down here, which is 80 k's. Woohoo! It's just as fun on a bike going up as it is coming down. Fantastic. Well, yet another brilliant day. A little bit shorter today, thankfully, because, as you know, yesterday I was pretty tired. I've still been on the bike just over 5 hours, and we've covered 320 k's, which is exactly 200 miles. Just rolling into the hotel, not too far from Geneva. I've learnt a lot about the bike, I've learnt a lot about my riding, I've learnt a lot about me, and that's what these adventures do. They teach you a lot about yourself. Sure, next year I'd love to do a similar trip, but with a group of other riders. I think it would be a completely different experience. And not that I haven't enjoyed every single minute of this trip, but there has been times where I wish I was with other people, especially when I'm feeling fatigued and tired like I was yesterday. And I was grateful to tag onto the back of those Italians. Not that they knew that they'd help me out, but they had. And once again, the weather's been amazing, if not a little bit too hot. The last couple of hours, or the last hour and a half on the motorway, between 36 and 38. And trust me, once it gets above 28, 29, it gets uncomfortable. It's still 30, but it actually feels mild now in comparison to how it was. I think I'm just a bit exhausted. The next 2 days, I just want to go at my own pace, do my own thing, and not have to turn the cameras on. I'll put this camera on the helmet and I'll capture any nice shots. And when I get home, I'll do a summary. How about that? So I'll bolt that onto the back of this video. MPG for today, has been 58.8, so 59. Once again, thrashing up and down mountain passes. It was actually at 62 or 63 when I left Alpe d'Huez. It's dropped to 58 because I've been on the toll route. You now join me at home, and it's actually 2 weeks after that fantastic Alps trip. I've had some time to reflect on what a brilliant time I had out there. I really enjoy road trip journeys and road trip videos, like my Petrolhead Tours videos from many years ago back in the day. They're really handy and good for the mind to watch through the winter months when perhaps we can't go to the Alps, or during times like lockdowns, etc. I'd look back on those videos and they'd put a smile on my face because I could relive at least a fraction of what I had done, and hopefully I managed to share this trip in a similar sort of way. After I'd switched the cameras off and on my way back up through France, I managed to avoid any toll roads and toll routes until I got up to St. Quentin, which is just over an hour and a half away from Calais. So the majority of France I did on back roads, and I tell you what, it was the best decision I ever made, not just financially because I avoid all the tolls and I don't have to pay overinflated prices for the petrol, but because of the scenery and the roads. Some of these ridiculously straight Roman roads were just unreal, and there was no traffic around whatsoever. Going through the villages and towns just kept my mind busy and meant that my 7-8 hour days suddenly became a lot easier and more bearable than sitting on the motorway out of the wind like this, which does wear off very, very quickly. My last morning checking out my final hotel, well, weather conditions had changed quite dramatically. There was torrential rain and thunderstorms, but thankfully I had a couple of hours to play with in terms of the time I needed to get to the tunnel. It soon cleared up and I was back to lovely riding conditions, and I was able to enjoy those glorious roads all the way up to the top of France. I stopped at Reims, or Raz as the French pronounce it, which is the old historical racing circuit, which unfortunately is being closed to the public in stages. I think we haven't really been allowed to visit there for a while now, but they are starting to clamp down more and more. You see it in various news articles and stuff, which is a real shame because it's such an iconic place, and it's a really good stopover point for the Brits when we get off the ferry or off the train about 2.5 hours into our journey into France. It's such a great place to stop and visit, and that was a really nice way to finish my trip before heading back up to the tunnel and getting off in the UK. Then I had my final 2.5 hours from Folkestone back to here, and thankfully most of that was in daylight. The last half hour it was getting a bit dark, but it was lovely to get home to Lou and my own bed. And as I said a bit earlier on, yeah, it took me a couple of days to recover mentally and physically from so much time on this wonderful bike. Talking of the bike, well, it was pretty much faultless. I mean, I don't have many bikes to compare it to, but there's nothing else out there that I would have preferred to be on. It was just fantastic. It did everything I asked. In fact, my luggage system that I had and everything just all worked out perfectly. I don't think I forgot anything, which was my biggest worry when I left. And I just felt really self-sufficient on this bike. I even had my own pillow, which was quite impressive. It did everything. It ate up all those motorway miles. It ate up all those alpine passes, all the country roads. Just brilliant. And in fact, I cleaned it a couple of days ago, and I wish now that I'd kept it dirty because it was absolutely covered in flies and grub. It done just under 1,900 miles over those 6 days. It looked like it had done the Le Mans 24-hour race. You know, it was just scattered with stuff, but it is cleaned up really well, and it looks pretty much brand new again, which it is. It's only done just over 3,000 miles. I was given it when it was pretty much brand new. The only thing I'm not a big fan of is the Motorrad sat nav. I think it's a Garmin unit. That to me just isn't that great. It's nothing as good as something you'll find in a modern day BMW car, but the rest of it is just fabulous and fantastic, and I really enjoyed my time in it. So massive thanks to BMW Motorrad UK, Neil, for organising it all, making me get my bike license in the first place, not making me, but offering to make that happen. It's just been wonderful. It's the best thing I've ever done, and yeah, really enjoyed that trip, and I can't wait to do a similar trip next year or maybe the year later with some friends, because I think next time I want to do it with like-minded friends on bikes, all of us on intercoms. Talking of intercoms, big shout out and thanks to Cardo for their fantastic pack light. Big shout out to Quadlock for this brilliant handlebar mount. I don't know what I would have done without my phone here for nav, etc. Especially after saying, yeah, the BMW one's not the best. Having Waze running there was just fantastic. So if you haven't got a Quadlock, get one. Make sure you get the anti-vibration mount, because the phone is steady as you like. And final huge thanks goes to RST for their fantastic leathers, gloves, boots, bell helmets, and of course to my good friend Chris Baron von Grumble for motivating me not just to get my license, motivating me to do my Euro trip. He did a fantastic one last year. I think I might have talked about it, but make sure you check it out on his channel, the Baron von Grumble channel. This is going back in the next couple of weeks, so I'm hoping to do one more sort of farewell video on it. And yeah, I'm going to miss it. Maybe not through the severe winter months, but I'm definitely going to miss having it in the garage and just taking it out for a ride, whether it's a 10-minute ride down the road or a 2,000-mile ride to the Alps and back. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this couple of videos. Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, thanks a lot for your support and time investment watching all of this. I'll see you at another video very soon. Cheers.